Joining us now is our friend Ellis Henican, Newsday Columnist, co-author, by the way, along with Charlie Crist of the upcoming book, The Party's Over, How the Extreme Right Hijacked the GOP and I Became a Democrat. Of course, Charlie Crist, the former governor of the state of Florida. And hello, Ellis.
Hey, Steve. How you doing?
Good. When is that book coming out?
February 4 is the pub date.
Excellent.
So be on the lookout. Pre-order. You know how people can buy stuff any old time now, right?
Yeah. Amazon and all that. I hope
anyway,
they do.
Thanks for the book hype, man.
Yeah, no, and I hope the governor comes up here as Dwight Gooden did. The last, I don't know if it's the last book you wrote, but another book that you co-wrote with a very famous person.
I'll deliver him safely into your hands, and I'm sure you'll treat him very kindly.
Oh, absolutely. I treat all my guests kindly. Absolutely.
How are you, buddy?
I'm good. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Same to you, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, so let's start with the Nelson Mandela funeral fiasco.
I'm gonna respond to you in sign language.
Yeah. Well, that's
okay.
what I was gonna say. I really was gonna start with that. I mean, we're laughing, but this guy is the fake sign languager. He was arrested for murder. He's a mental history of he says violence. How did he get to stand right next to the President of the United States?
It's a very good question. I would have a lot of queries for the South African authorities on this thing. Although I got to say, I've always thought I could probably do that sign language. I mean, it looks like you could probably do it.
Well, now you know you can.
Listen, here's my take on it, honestly.
Yeah.
There are some jobs that are better left to professionals, right? I always knew that brain surgery was one and flying a jumbo jet. I don't want an amateur doing either one of those things.
See, I think Obama could do the brain surgery, by the way. Yeah.
Maybe. But I got to tell you, we now have to add to the list of things that are better left to professionals. We have to add sign language interpreter for the hearing impaired. Oh, and also international diplomat. What brings that up, of course, is Rodman, Dennis Rodman's upcoming trip to North Korea, which is happening next week,
Yeah, well, I don't know. I can't believe that. Well, I do believe it. He's going there with other former NBA players, and it doesn't matter that they just killed the guy killed his uncle, and there's a power struggle, and the whole place is in chaos. I mean, look, you know what? No one could control Dennis Rodman, I guess, but I'm a little surprised that our government allows that kind of travel to North Korea. Can't they rein him in and say, it's too much? Too much of good publicity for him in North Korea. We're not letting you go right now. I don't know.
I know that last time he offered to debrief the State Department on his experiences over there, and they said no, thank you.
Don't come near us.
Right? They said we'll call you if we have any questions.
Yeah, but between the glare of the tattoos and the nose ring, I don't know that we'll get much out of it.
I'll tell you how you know it's really a mess. Is Donald Trump has been supporting Dennis lately. Have you noticed that?
No, I really haven't.
Because
seriously.
Dennis, I know you're not a regular viewer of the Celebrity Apprentice, but Dennis has been making appearances on Celebrity Apprentice, and Donald is saying, well, he's street smart. I think that's what Donald said. He's very street smart.
Well, he got to talk and sit next to this guy. Maybe our government should be talking to him before he goes over there and trying to get him to find things out, in secret. You would hope, if it weren't Dennis Rodman, you would hope that maybe this would be the case, but who knows? Maybe it is happening behind the scenes.
Steve, it makes even you appreciate our State Department.
Well, it makes me appreciate how, if they're not doing it, how inept they really are. But all right, so what about? Let's put up before we get to the handshake. Let's put up the picture for folks watching at Newsmax TV to see. And this is the selfie. I'm sorry. I mean, I know they're saying it was festive and blah blah blah. But the bottom line is, and you'll have to admit, I think, that George Bush. I went on the air the next day and said, if George Bush were there, well, of course George Bush was there. If this was George Bush sitting there with the Danish Prime Minister and Cameron and taking that wacky picture, forget it. They'd be killing him in the media for weeks.
No, I mean, it was like when he hugged Merkel, right?
Yeah, well, they went after him then, but this is at a funeral here.
I mean, listen, it's the same. All of these things, Steve, fall into the category of do you like the guy or do you not like the guy? If you don't like the guy, if you think Obama's terrible, any little incident like this seems outrageous to you. And if you basically like him, you think, what the heck? I mean, listen, I come from a city of New Orleans where we have jazz funerals. We dance when people die. So, I don't know. I mean, I basically like Obama. I basically it doesn't bother me, and I'm sure those who hate the guy think it's dreadful.
But would
right?
you have told him? If you could look back, would you have advised him not to take the picture?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Because you're handing your critics something they can beat you with, even if it's stupid.
All right, now let's move on to the handshake.
Okay.
And I don't even know which came first, the chicken or the egg, the handshake or the selfie. But this handshake with Raul Castro, while we have a prisoner being held there against his will for 4 years, if I had the opportunity, if I were president of the United States, which would never happen, although anyway, and I was going to shake Castro's hand, what I would have said to him, I would look him in the eye, and I would have said, Alan, gross. Let him out. But then again, we found out, as I predicted we would, because we found out that that whole setup with the Iranian president, Obama wanted to shake his hand at the UN. He couldn't, so he called him in the limo, and we're going to have talks now. And Kerry said, we'll have an agreement in three weeks. And people said, what? And it turned out they've been talking for a year. Same thing here. Now we find out after the fact, according to a couple of reports, they've been talking for 6 months or a year. But just the optics of it, you know what it does to the spirit of the political prisoners that are in jail and gulags because they dared to speak out against Castro. And here's the president of the United States, smiling and shaking the hand of the man who put them there or kept them there. It's just not right.
Steve, I look at it a little differently. Listen, I want them to be talking. I'm glad they were talking to the Iranians. I hope they're talking to the Cubans because there are 190 countries in the world, right? Probably half of them, say, are run by dreadful people who do awful things to their citizens, who don't have our Bill of Rights and our level of freedom. And so you're left with a choice, right? You can insult them and turn your back and poke your finger in the eye, or you can try to engage them. The engagement is never perfect. It's always frustrating. The other side uses it for propaganda. But in the long run, haven't we learned that by and large we're better off trying to engage people even when we don't like the way they run their countries?
There's a way to engage, though, and doing it publicly and shaking the hand and giving a picture like you said, for propaganda purposes is not the way. If they're doing backdoor talks and if Iran would give up its nuclear program, which they will not, then that's a great victory. If Cuba would free their prisoners and at least send Alan Gross home, then that's great. I'm glad they're talking. But shy of anything being done, why it doesn't benefit us to have public pictures taken of the handshakes. So why give it to them?
But those are the goals. See, that's what we hope we'll get. If you don't begin,
well, you could talk though.
But you want. I mean, that's the reason.
But talking and publicly shaking hands are two different things.
Let's talk about the Cuban embargo for a second.
Yeah,
right? That's the dumbest thing in the world, right? It is demonstrably not achieved any of its purposes. If anything, it has hardened the Castro regime over the years. It's been a total failure, right? We got to find a way out of it in a hurry. It has not helped the Cuban people. It's hurt them, and anything we can do to get beyond that is a good thing. You know that hasn't been a success, don't you?
Well, I don't know what you mean by a success.
Made things better for the Cuban people.
The only people who have hurt the Cuban people is the Cuban leadership.
We have handed the same way that your little selfie gave Obama's critics a thing to beat him with, right?
Right.
Our embargo allows the dictators in Havana, and I have no trouble calling them dictators, it empowers them. It gives them a great enemy to rail against. It justifies all the oppression on their shores. We do much better in the long run when we engage with people who are engaged in bad stuff than we do these kind of silly. How long has that thing been going on? It's like 50 years now.
Yeah,
right?
It's been 50 years.
Good luck. Show me the achievement.
Well, but talk. But you don't reward a regime for doing what they've been doing for 50 years, and that's not me. Talk to the Cuban Americans who are in this country. Talk to the ones who are elected officials.
Well, the ones who are over about 70 agree with. The younger ones are much more on my side.
Congressman Ross Layton isn't 70. Marco Rubio's not 70.
Well, he's playing to that crowd. You know, the younger generation of Cubans have a much different attitude about this than their grandpappies do.
Well, right? I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I don't talk to many young Cubans. You mean that didn't come from Cuba or have mothers or fathers from Cuba?
The ones that didn't come here in 1962. You know, I mean, it's a different experience that they
right, because they never experienced it.
Right, so they don't feel the same way. But we got to move on. Seriously, the reason that dreadful regime is still in power today is heavily traceable, not entirely, but heavily traceable to the fact that we have given them the justification to do it. And it turns out to have been a bad decision.
All right, we're talking to Ellis Henican, Newsday columnist and a co-author of a book to be released early February. You could go online and look for it now, and it's called The Party's Over, How the Extreme Right Hijacked the GOP and I Became a Democrat, by Governor Charlie Crist, of course, with Ellis Henican. We have a couple of minutes left, so let's talk about this. You know, it's funny because it's the Democratic Party that over the many, many decades, and this would be absolutely true. You look at every policy of JFK, he would be thrown out of the Democratic Party today. There are no moderate Democratic candidates anymore, with very few exceptions. They are all radical leftists, and every one of their policies, whether it's foreign policy, social policy, economic policy, is so far to the left that old Democrats could never be in this Democratic Party.
Would you say the same thing about the Republicans?
No, absolutely not.
So you think the Republicans are completely modern, the Dems
first of all, that's not what I was talking about, but you want to change it around, obviously.
No. I think, listen, I'll make a better argument for you. The destruction and disintegration of bipartisanship makes both parties more extreme. It pushes the Dems to the left and it pushes the Republicans to the right, and has created a zone in the middle that's really impossible for anyone to sustain. And so conservative Democrats are in a tough place, and more moderate Republicans are almost a dying breed. There are almost none of them anymore. And Crist is a great example, right? Very popular Republican governor of Florida, moderate Republican, who got killed by this Tea Party extremism, and he had no choice. I mean, the party that he grew up in had no place for someone like him anymore, and so he's found a new home in the Democrats.
Well, I don't know how you find out. I don't know if you're ever a Republican, how on earth you find a home with this Democratic Party. Then you were never really a Republican to begin with. I'm sorry.
Well, the tent used to be, Steve, as Ronald Reagan used to say, the tent was a whole lot bigger in those days.
Well, I don't know about that. We'll pick that up next time around. Listen, if we don't speak before the holidays, really have a Merry Christmas, and really appreciate you coming on, sir, and I hope to see you soon. Maybe one day you come in to the studio.
That would be my pleasure.
All right, Ellis, take care. Ellis Henican, ladies and gentlemen, Newsday columnist, co-author, as I mentioned, of the forthcoming The Party's Over, How the Extreme Right Hijacked the GOP and I Became a Democrat. That's the book he's co-authored with Charlie Crist, the former governor of the state of Florida. Okay, we're gonna have one segment left, and I want to do a little talking. Gee, me talk? What a shock! I want to talk about Trayvon Martin, his family, more specifically, and I want to talk about the Pope. And I could assure you that there is absolutely no connection between the two stories. These are two different stories, but I think they will be of interest to you. Trayvon Martin, his family, making some news, and the Pope, just a day or two after being named Time Magazine Person of the Year, says something that has to have the Time Magazine people, I don't know, vomiting, shaking, crying, whatever. So we'll fill you in on all of that. Both of those stories. Imagine that. And all you got to do is stay right here. Keep it right here where you're watching or listening to the Steve Malzberg Show, heard every day 3 to 6 Eastern on Newsmax TV and radio. Don't go away.